What's up, everyone? Last week I showed you that Sheath Underwear is more than just a support system for your balls. It's more than just the most comfortable underwear in the world, but it's also a convenient thing. It has a pouch in the front that if you don't want to put your balls in it, you can just put a bunch of other things in it. For example, your TV remote, a can of water, cornbread, a bottle of hot sauce, a gun. The point is, Sheath Underwear is incredibly convenient, incredibly comfortable, and if you go to their website, sheathunderwear.com, you can use my promo code RRBG and save 20%. Support a veteran-owned company, support the podcast, and support yourself. Sheathunderwear.com. Recovery drink.
Oh, nice.
Kill Cliff, keeping me awake and alive, and full of vitamins and stuff.
There we go.
Yeah. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the RRBG podcast. I'm here with Brody King. I'm going to use your shoot name, or your work name, not your shoot name. Of God's Hate. How you doing?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing all right. Trying to keep my sanity into this pandemic. You still living in LA or in the Los Angeles area?
Yeah, I live in the San Fernando Valley.
San Fernando Valley. And I'm assuming it's as closed down as the rest of LA is, right?
Yep. I guess on Monday they're supposed to be opening like indoor dining and movie theaters and gyms. So I don't know, man. It seems like a bad idea, but yeah. I'm not a doctor, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor either, but every time I hear like Texas is wide open, come on in, like nothing, there's no problem. And like all my buddies from Florida are like partying in spring break. I'm like, really, guys? Like that?
Yeah.
I figured we'd go back to normal at some point, but we're not there yet, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I told all my friends, like, when are you going to fly over? We're going to do a gathering and we're going to go to a show. I'm like, as soon as I get a vaccine in my body or something, I'm already, I have weak lungs, so it's not gonna, I can't risk, even if it's just the flu, like everybody says, like, I'm still fucked. I can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even like getting the flu, so if I can not get that either, that would be great.
Yeah, that's that. Everybody's like, oh yeah, it's just the flu. Like, cool, but that sucks. Like,
yeah,
I take the shot every year, so I don't get it, because I go to NAM every year, and I'd come back from NAM with the worst flu of my entire, like the anthrax, I'd be out for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's like when you go to big festivals or whatever, and you get the plague that was in there. You're coughing up your lungs for a couple weeks.
Yeah, like that's not fun, especially if you're a vocalist. Like why would you want to ruin your instrument? I always tell people the same thing every time. Like me getting the flu as a vocalist is the same as my guitar player breaking his hand. Like I can't.
I've been on tour where you're hoarse and you're talking like this the whole time, and it's like, well, how are we gonna play this set tonight? This should be interesting.
Well, I mean, I guess thankfully your music, you're doing mostly screaming, right?
Yeah, it's more guttural from the lower region. Not there's no singing involved.
Right. The new album, man, God's Hate, it's out already. It's, my friend told me it's the perfect hardcore album.
Well, that's
I agree.
A compliment.
It's been, well, how long was it? 5 years since the last one?
Yeah, that one came out in 2015, so six years, almost
years.
To the date. That one came out February of 2015.
Shit, man. And what was it that, I mean, I'm guessing you had some time off because of the pandemic with pro wrestling not really happening with, I know Ring of Honor took a break, and some people were still doing shows, but I'm guessing the time off is what got you motivated to do another album, or how did that work out?
Yeah, Colin and I, we were talking about it like right before the pandemic. We were kind of planning on starting to, put the finishing touches on it. He had already had a few songs written and like kind of had the idea for the record. So the wheels were in motion, but then when the pandemic hit and we literally had nothing to do, like you said, wrestling was down, everyone was out of work. So it's like, well, what do we do now? I guess we just make this record as good as we can. So it really gave us the time to focus on all the little stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, some people you know, they saw the pandemic as a break, as a, you know, I need to take some time off, or, you know, maybe some people got a little depressed or whatever from motivation and whatnot, but it's good to hear that, you know, you guys, instead of just sitting around, you decided, fuck it, this is the time to put an album out. A lot of musicians I've talked to, they're like, yeah, I didn't want to do anything because if I put out a record and I can't tour, then what's the point, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like God's Hate was never a big like touring band anyways, so it's like we figured, you know, there's no harm in just doing it and seeing what happens. We did sit on it for, I mean, we wrapped recording I think in May, so it's been, you know, quite a while we had it finished, and like it was like, you know, trying to keep the best kept secret from yourself. Like you're trying not to show too many people, trying not to let it get out too much, but you know, I'm glad that it's out now and people are enjoying it.
Oh yeah, man, and it's got some really cool artwork and vinyl variants. I picked up one of the vinyl variants. I think it was the T1000 or something like that.
Yeah, which is funny because Justin, who owns Close Casket Records, he will just send us like the colors. He's just like, "What do we name this stuff?" And then we just like come up with random. So, like that one, I was like, "Oh, let's call it the T1000," because you know the cover is obviously like a take on Terminator meets Punisher meets Shogun. Like it's, you know, everything that we enjoy in one.
Yeah, that cover is crazy. It's super colorful, very like traditional tattoo. You know, the old school Japanese tattoos, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Uh,
Our my good friend Mark, who is also tattooed a lot of my body. When we asked him to do the album artwork, and we kind of gave him we literally just told him that we said Punisher meets Shogun meets Terminator, and he's like, I got it. And it was like he already had in mind what to do, and he killed it.
Nice. Hell yeah. I mean, when you go into creating an album like this, you know, during a time like of uncertainty, I guess, um, were you doing most of the lyric writing, or was this, you know, were you calling you like taking turns at lyrics, or what?
Yeah, so on this record, it was much more collaborative than previous records, but always with God's Hate, it's like Colin is like he's the one that is able to put my thoughts and words into like proper context, I guess. So like I will send him like a skeleton of like, here's a bunch of lyrics for a song, and like here's the idea of the song, and then he'll be like, okay, let's work with this, and then we kind of go back and forth and, you know, piece it out. Taylor actually wrote a couple songs. He wrote Violence Unlimited, and he wrote Warman, which is the last track, and he would also throw in little, you know, one-liners if we were stuck on a song. But it was definitely very collaborative on this record, and which I really enjoyed.
Nice, man. More or less, I mean, hardcore records tend to have a similar theme in terms of lyrics. Like mostly, it's all about, you know, persevering and overcoming certain obstacles in your life, and you know, I want like being hard, I guess. uh, is that, you know, when you were growing up, is that something that you dealt with or were struggling with, like something that you had to, I guess, deal with? It's just trying to be hard. Like, where was there bullying situations or something? Because a lot of the people I've talked to have that they grew up dealing with that. Like, they were bullied, and then that inspired them to kind of go into that realm.
No, I never really personally dealt with that too much. And you know, the whole like be harder thing of God's Hate isn't like being tougher. It's like, you know, mental toughness. It's the life is gonna suck like for everybody. No matter who you are, how much money you have, at some point it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
And you know, be harder is just, you have to have that mental toughness to persevere through that. You know, it doesn't have to be someone bullying you. It can be. I mean, you know, being able to overcome something like that, or like stepping up to somebody like that. But you know, it's just the complete landscape of life, I guess. But yeah, you know, the lyrical context in this definitely reflects like what got me into hardcore and punk music and metal music. Like as a kid, was just, you know, questioning the government, questioning religion, and you know, having all these like views that I felt were different than other people and finding that within this genre of music.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that was my appeal to it as well. Just I grew up in a very strict household. I went to, private school, Catholic school, all you name it. And I always, I got kicked out of there because I just would ask too many questions, or what. I got kicked out of the last private school I went to because they thought I was possessed. Because I asked,
Oh,
yeah, like I asked a question about dinosaurs or something like that, and the answer they gave me made me laugh so much that I was on the ground just uncontrollably laughing, and they thought that was me possessed by the devil. So they they called my mother and like, you got to get him out of here. We can't do this. And uh, then after that, my mom finally gave up. She was like, whatever, do whatever you want to do then, But I immediately just went into like metal and hardcore and industrial music, like anything that I felt was aggressive or controversial to everything that I grew up with.
yeah. I mean, I was lucky that my parents were very supportive of pretty much anything and everything I wanted to do. Uh, I remember being like 12 or 13 and going up to my mom and being like, is God real? Like, because this doesn't really make sense to me. And she's like, go ask your dad. And it's like, I went and asked my dad, I was like, Dad, is God real? He's like, nope. And I said, yeah, I didn't think so. So that was like, kind of like our talk religion. I think my mom has like some kind of spirituality, but my dad, grew up very non-religious. Uh, but yeah, that they always kind of like pushed me into a direction that I wanted to go in. And, my dad would take me to metal shows, or he would, you know, be there to experience these things so that it was, a safe space with him, but also like I was kind of like experiencing it on my own. Like he wasn't holding my hand at the show. It was like, I would go in the mosh pit or whatever. I'd go sing along, and like he'd kind of be up in the balcony watching over me. And I always thought that was really cool. And that'll always be like something I'll always be fond of with him.
Hell yeah, man! Like, what were some of the earlier shows that you went to as a kid with your dad?
I mean, I remember going to like, Static X or Mudvayne and like all these like new metal shows back then. And then, uh, I would go to punk shows with my friends by myself. And those were the formative years of me getting into aggressive music, which was like 12, 13, 14 years old.
Nice. Yeah, I forget you're younger than me, dude.
Yeah. I'm turning 34 next Wednesday.
Nice, nice. I'm turning 40 in November, and I don't know what to do with myself anymore. Like, because
Yeah.
I still act like a kid. I still got video games and metal in my life. So
Oh, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, when I was in junior high, that's when I really dove into music, and it like bands like Pennywise, Bad Religion, Black Flag, like AFI. Those were like the punk side, and then like more new metal bands like Slipknot, Mudvayne, Limp Bizkit, Corn. Like it was like a whole gambit of things, but it really kind of made me appreciate like everything in like the aggressive music genre. And then when I got into high school, that's when I found bands like Hatebreed and Terror and started listening to more like hardcore bands.
it's funny how that goes, right? Like you start discovering. Like for me, it was similar-ish. Like I never started with like death metal, but I made my way there, and it just gets heavier and progressively more aggressive as you discover, or you go deeper into the heavy music.
Yeah, like I never really got into death metal like when I was a kid or when I was in high school really. I had this weird thing where I grew up in a small desert town outside of LA called Palmdale. And
I know Palm though. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the kids there that I didn't really want to associate with like liked a lot of bands like that. Like I would see these kids, with like a shaved head and a Confederate flag belt buckle with like a Pantera shirt on. I'm like, I don't really want to fuck with that. And
Yeah.
or like they had like Cannibal Corpse shirt on. So I kind of wrote that music off as just like stuff that I didn't want to really deal with. And then now, as an adult, like those are some of my favorite bands. Like that's when I started getting into bands, like Suffocation, Dying Fetus, Cannibal Corpse, like, the heavy classic death metal bands.
Yeah, man. Yeah, same with me. I mean, I think one of the first things, the first exposure to heavy music to me was like Metallica, Marilyn Manson, like super early stuff. Like before it was just him, it was like Marilyn Manson, the Spooky Kids. and it was just anything that made me feel like I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Music, that's kind of what got me. I'm like, all right, yeah, I like this. And then slowly but surely, everything started opening up. I think that my opening, like the gatekeepers for death metal were Between the Buried and Me for me, actually. Like as soon as I heard
Oh,
them, I'm like, oh wait, it's not all just, like it's could be something else. And once I got into them, then I started listening to all the other death metal bands that I'd been missing
yeah.
out on for years.
You need that, like that one band that really makes you understand, like, okay, this is it. Like, it's not just a bunch of like gurgles and like Cookie Monster vocals, which now I love. And I hate when people are like, oh, it makes no sense. Like, I'm like, well, that's just because you just don't get it yet.
Yeah,
But
you're not listening.
band, I 100% agree. Bands like Between the Buried and Me and like the Black Dahlia Murder were the bands that kind of transitioned me into being more of a fan of death metal.
Yeah. So when did you decide, like around what age did you decide you wanted to be in a band and you wanted to like actually do it yourself instead of just being a fan?
I mean, I always wanted to be in bands since I started watching punk bands and stuff like that. And I think growing up in the punk community, it's just kind of the natural progression is to want to be in a band. It's like, all right, I see my friends being in bands, or I see these guys that a couple years older than me at school being in bands. Like, now it's my turn. And I was in like a couple bands in my like local scene, nothing notable. And then God's Hate was like the first like big band I was in. I was in a band called Sleepwalkers with a couple friends that was like more of a punk hardcore band. We did like a couple tours here and there, like not very far. We went to, like Utah and Nevada and stuff like that. But then God's Hate was like the band that we've done, multiple full US tours and toured Japan, stuff like that.
Nice, nice, nice. When you were starting God's Hate, you were one of the co-founders, right?
What's that?
You were one of the co-founders of the band God's Hate.
Yeah, yeah. Me and Colin were like, it was our baby from the beginning.
So what made you choose that instead of going maybe like a new metal or maybe death metal? Like why hardcore? Why that like style of kind of like a hate breed style?
I mean, since getting into hardcore music, that was kind of like, this is my thing. This is where I found like my sweet spot. It's aggressive, but it also has like the punk ideals. Like, it was everything in one. And I was like, I got fully immersed in it. And coming out of high school, I went to lots of hardcore shows. I went to, Sound and Fury for the first time in 2006. And that was like, there's a 3-day festival with, 40 bands that are all different, but the same, like within the same context. And, hardcore music just became my life for, 10 plus years, 15 years. I mean, at this point, it's been, in my life longer than it hasn't. But yeah, and I always like that there's not really any rules in hardcore. Like, you can have a band that sounds like a death metal band, and you're like, yeah, we're a hardcore band because this is what our ideals are, this is what our morals are. And like, no one can tell you that that's not true. Like,
Yeah.
that's always been the appeal to hardcore music for me, is that you can take inspiration from everything and still have it be hardcore music. It's not like pop music or, country music where they're very just like one dimensional.
Yeah, and they're also very accepting, man. Like you said, I feel comfortable in that realm where, if you go into more like extreme metal or death metal, the fans tend to be a little more elitist,
Yeah.
And if you tell them like, oh yeah, I used to listen to Static X, they're like, poser, like,
Yeah.
all right, whatever. I mean, it was like I love Static X, and uh, a lot of my friends give me shit for it. Like, oh, it's new metal. How can you listen to that? It's like, it's heavy as fuck. Have you seen them live? I mean, I remember going to see Static X live in Florida, standing up close to the stage and just feeling my shirt shaking from the vroom. I'm like, oh shit. Like, that's good to me. That's heavy music. I don't know how you could hate on that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like you said, it becomes very elitist in the fact is like, I would love to know what those guys' first bands were. Like,
Yeah.
what were you listening to that got you to this point? Because I'm sure that it wasn't Suffocation.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking into cryptopsy. I don't know how to say it right, but
Yeah.
I was looking because I'm talking to their singer later, and I saw that they were trashed on by a bunch of their fans because they had one song where he sings on it. I'm like, what? Like, why is that such a problem that there's some melody
Yeah, you
in
can't
that?
within your music. And then what, so what's the point of making it? It's like you're not being artistically free within your own genre.
Yeah, I don't know, but I feel like with hardcore, like you can do stuff like that. You could sing in a song, and it wouldn't deter your fans that much, I think.
Yeah, you have a band like Life of Agony who is all melodic vocals, and then a band like, Hatebreed or Marauder, which is incredibly aggressive the whole time, but it still has melody within that. Like, and then you have like bands like Twitching Tongues. That's like the best comparison is like you have a band like Twitching Tongues who Colin is in fronts, and then you have God's Hate. They're almost polar opposite, but meet in the same realm.
Sure, yeah.
And on this record, I think we've blended the two. There's a lot of melodic parts. There's a big singing part in one of the songs from Colin that I think that will take a couple people off. They might like be listening and expect something else and be like, whoa, what was that? But like it's honestly my favorite part of the record.
Yeah, there's no. I mean, I don't know. I hate that elitist mentality when it comes to music, and when it comes to everything, really. Just there's no need for that. Just I love the openness and like it's kind of like a. I don't want to say the word brotherhood because it's not all that inclusive, but it's just kind of it is like a united thing with
Yeah.
hardcore. And from the outside, you see the hardcore scene, and it kind of seems like it's just a bunch of tough guys like being tough and hard. It's like yeah, but not really. You can all we're all there for each other in the pit too. Like if you fall down, someone's gonna pick you up and dust you off and throw you back in there.
Yeah. I think people get confused when they see like hardcore shows and they see people, dancing and like swinging at each other and punching each other. And like people just are like, okay, so I'm going to go in there. I'm going to fight a person. It's like, no, like that's not really how it works. But, I've been knocked out cold by some of my best friends. And it's just, you know,
It's
it's just
part.
a
It's
weekend.
yeah, it's part of the fun. And I mean, I've definitely like intentionally hit someone to knock them out because they were bullying somebody. Like
Sure.
if I see some dude just intentionally punching somebody in the back of the head, I'm gonna go knock him out first. Like I'm heading right for him. Um, but I think also it just that style of music also lends itself to people like yourself or me that are into pro wrestling or MMA or anything like that, where we get to exercise this violent side of our lives. And on the outside, people see it as like, oh, you guys are crazy, you're so violent. It's like, no, this is actually therapy. This is so I
Yeah.
don't yeah, this pit right here so that I don't do this in public. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If I didn't have, hardcore music or pro wrestling, I don't know where I'd be because, I got a little bit of an anger problem and, I can be a little bit unreasonable at times when it comes to that. So I don't want to know where I'd be with if I didn't have these physical violent releases in my
Right,
life.
right. Do you play any instruments or are you just a like screamer vocalist?
Just singer, yeah. I tried playing guitar, didn't I just couldn't figure it out, I guess. And I never really had interest in playing drums. I mean, it just seems very tiring and also nobody appreciates it truly.
Yeah. I like drums only because it feels like an extension of that thing I was just saying, that violent tendency thing. Like
Right.
if when I used to have a drum set around when I lived with my band, like I would sit there and just work. It was a workout, and I got to release. It was kind of like hitting the bag for a bit. Just kind of sit there for a while until I physically couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
Um, so that's always been something that I'm not good at the drums at all. I can't keep a beat, but it just felt good, I guess, as something like an exercise. Um, when we get back to shows, hopefully, do you have do you have in mind like a package of bands that you want to go on tour with?
Uh I don't know if I have like a tour in mind because I don't know if I'll ever tour again. Like maybe, a week tour here and there. That's fine. But like a full US like 30 show tour, that's just it's kind of out of the question just because, you know, my wrestling career is also like very demanding, and obviously that's what pays my bills. So that first, but you know, I'll definitely have time to do like, you know, some fun stuff, some weekends on the East Coast, the West Coast, and like some weeks here and there. Like if we get to do like a week in Japan, that sounds like a, you know, awesome, or like a couple fests in Europe. Uh, but I do have an idea for a show. Like once we finally get to do like a record release show, I would love to do a show where it's like uh, King Nine, Never Ending Game, Criminal Instinct, and God's Hate. Those are like those are three of my favorite bands, and also like some of my best friends and like guys that have really supported us, and we've supported them since the inception of our bands. And I think that that would be a pretty wild show.
Hell yeah, yeah. Do you see when you were doing shows, because of who you are in your pro wrestling career, do you find that maybe a lot of people try to do like wrestling moves in the pit or some kind of, extra thing that normal shows wouldn't have?
No, not really. Like I haven't really realized that yet, but I mean, there hasn't been a couple times where like someone like will slide a table onto the stage, and then one of my friends will be like, "Put me through the table." I'm like, "Okay," but, you know, random stuff like that. But you know, they're all pretty fascinated by it.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I remember somebody sent me a clip. I don't know what the name of the band is, so I'm sorry for not shouting you out properly, but there's been videos that people send me of people doing wrestling moves during a show. Like there's ladders and tables and slams, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? What is happening? I figured that'd be something that would happen at your shows, but
No, I like to keep, you know, them separate in that sense. Like I don't really want to blend them that much. But I do appreciate, especially with this record, the crossover of wrestling fans that have supported the record, and you know, maybe it's opened their eyes to other hardcore bands. You know, maybe they're just a casual metal fan that likes the heaviness of it. But it's been really cool to see, you know, how supportive the wrestling scene has been towards, you know, my music career.
yeah, it seems to be growing too. I mean, Andy from Every Time I Die is doing really well over there at AEW, and it seems like obviously there's some flubs here and there you hear on commentary. Like they're like, yeah, he plays bass. I'm like, no, no, he doesn't. But
I bet.
it's
So
still.
I'll message him and be like, "Oh, so you play bass now?"
Yeah, I think like Jericho said he plays bass or something. I'm like, oh, come on. But it's cool to see that they are embracing that, and even like NXT keeps bringing in some bands that you wouldn't really expect. Like when they brought in the Code Orange kids, like I wasn't expecting that, that they were kind of like that. I wouldn't say unknown, but they were still relatively smaller band before that whole thing happened.
Yeah, that was a very emotional experience for me, was watching. So some of my, you know, really good friends, one of them is Aleister Black, and then Code Orange has been like huge supporter of God's Hate. We've been huge supporters of them since before God's Hate was a band. Really good friends of ours, and the guy that sang the the music for Aleister Black's theme song, Brendan, he sings in a band called Incendiary.
Yeah.
Really good friends of mine. So it's like at one point, all of my friends were like on TV at once. Like they were playing his walkout music. And it's just like, that was like really a special moment for me. And I think it was like a special moment for the hardcore community to be represented like properly.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was a great moment. I was very surprised, and a lot of people give the WWE shit, but that's one thing that they are doing right in terms of NXT. They're doing that, supporting smaller bands like that, and well, now they're huge. Now they're Grammy nominated band, but
Two time Grammy
yeah,
nominated. But yeah, I mean, they've put on for bands like Code Orange, like bands like Power Trip, like these
mhm.
bands that, you know, I saw play to 100 people, and now they're like, you know, like you said, nominated for Grammys. That's insane to say.
Yeah, it's really like the credit to give to whoever's making that decision. I don't know if it's Triple H or whoever it is, but whoever's making those decisions, we got to give them credit for giving a light to metal and heavy music, because it was kind of dying out. Like you can't turn on radio or TV and hear anything that's anywhere near that kind of music anymore. And even whoever's listening to the radio, everybody's listening to Spotify or whatever, YouTube Music or whatever it is, and you get these recommendations and these discover playlists and stuff, and it's always just kind of catered to a specific thing. Like it's hard for a band like yours to be showcased.
Yeah, and I've always appreciated the wrestling metal crossover too. That's kind of how I discovered a lot of bands early on, was what a wrestler t-shirt was. And recently on WWE there was guys like Eric Rowan and Luke Harper come out like in Nails shirts, and like I remember Luke Harper had like a Snapcase shirt on. It's like,
Yeah.
And these are like deep cut bands that like might really open up a lot for a young kid to see. Like if they deep dive into Nails and then they get into like either death metal or hardcore or whatever else, like that's what's like really special to me. And that's something that I would like that I hope that I can put across to fans of mine, younger fans of mine. Like when they always ask me like, what bands should I listen to, and I'll give them like a rundown. I'm like, listen to Black Flag, listen to Slayer, listen to Pantera. Like start with those bands. If you like them, come back to me. I'll give you more. And
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was one of the I would tune in to see his Eric Rowan's matches just to see what new shirt he would come out with that week, because he was a new shirt every week.
Yeah, I remember he I think reached out to somebody in Nails just as a fan, and like they sent him like a package of stuff, and he wore the t-shirt like the next week. But he was always trying to wear a different metal shirt every week, and I thought that was really cool. And it's just that that little bit of representation, that little bit of support goes a long way.
Yeah, for sure. For now that we're talking a little bit about pro wrestling, like how's that going for you? I haven't really been keeping up all that much, so I don't know. Like, is Ring of Honor back on doing shows like with no audience, or how's that working out for you?
Yeah, so we've been back since about July. I think we did our first set of tapings, or July or August. And it's been about every 8 weeks we do a quarantine bubble for a week. We do multiple days of TV matches, and then once in a while we'll have a pay-per-view. Like we had the Final Battle pay-per-view in December, and then we have our anniversary pay-per-view at the end of the month. So we're keeping the wheels going. I think out of all pro wrestling companies, I'm very appreciative to be part of Ring of Honor right now, because they've really expected nothing out of us and wanted to keep us all as safe as possible in the conditions that we're in right now. So they've kept the paychecks coming, and we're kind of like, just stay at home, keep working out, and stay safe and stay healthy. And what more could you ask for an employer than that?
Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah, because like even as exciting as it may be to see shows like AEW or whatever having an audience, it's still kind of freaky. Like I'm like, they're too close to, it's too close. Like I obviously I think pro wrestling is one of those things that needs an audience, but the safety of the wrestlers is I think priority.
Yeah, I think that we've gotten pretty good at the no audience shows, as far as like upping the aggression, upping the getting that vibe within the match. But there's still like multiple matches I've watched or even had where I'm like, man, I wish there was a crowd there, because that would have been awesome. Like that it just would have added that extra level to everything.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing that's been that I've noticed without an audience that pulled it off for me was Barnett's Bloodsport.
Oh yeah, I really love how that's represented and presented. That like dingy, dirty, like warehouse building with just like these legit fighters in it, I think is really cool.
Is that something you would want to do someday? Like, I don't know even know if you're allowed to with your contract or anything, but is that something you're interested in?
Maybe like it's different, because like that's a completely different style than like I'm used to. I do have like that brawler, like physical, big chops, big hits, like style. But like these guys are like, trained fighters, like for all intents and purposes. Like I think it is cool when they have guys like Homicide and stuff like that on there who will come out and they have more of just like a street, like I've been fighting since I was a kid style.
Yeah.
There's not really any rules. It's just kind of like throwing down. But they got guys, like Tom Lawler, who's former UFC fighter, or like Josh Barnett, who's former UFC champion. Like those are real dudes. And I don't want to pretend like I'm on that level when I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, Tom is also doing pro wrestling. I had him on the show, but he's doing MLW with some of your old pals,
Yeah,
War Beast.
yeah, and he's also doing the New Japan Strong stuff with he's been at a lot of tapings with us, and it's amazing to see how he's progressed in professional wrestling, because he truly just wants to be a professional wrestler. He kind of leaves that. I feel like with some guys, they have that kind of ego of, they know that they're like a killer and that they can just do whatever they want. But Tom, he's so humble and he just wants to be a pro wrestler, and I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, man. I think you're a perfect fit, honestly, for Bloodsport, because it's like they're selling it now as like the most metal wrestling event or something like that. And I mean, Andy did, I think, two or three, one of them. He did one of them. And
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, he fought Chris Dickinson in one.
Yeah,
it was really awesome.
I don't know. I think that'd be cool. It's definitely changing the way I look at pro wrestling too. Just because, like when I saw that Moxley did it, like it changed the way I see that guy now. Like I've always respected him. I always thought, yeah, he's like a top, pro wrestler in the world. But when he went and did Bloodsport, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, blending those styles is definitely, it's taking that art of wrestling and adding another level to it, I guess. So yeah, I would definitely be open to it. Josh Barnett, hit me up.
I'll send him a text. Don't worry about it. We'll make it happen. But yeah, dude, I actually miss seeing you at PCW Ultra a lot. Like I used to go whenever they had an event, and you were part of the main stable there with Warbeast and everything. And,
yeah, man, that was a huge starting point in my career too, and PCW gave me a lot of opportunities with, being around great people to succeed. I was able to be mentored by Kevin Sullivan since, pretty much I started wrestling, which is, a pretty crazy thing to say. But yeah, PCW always have a really special place in my heart.
yeah, I forget how, like we were spoiled. Like I remember going to these shows because I lived like 8 minutes away from the venue, and um, just seeing like, some of the top stars now there, like,
Yeah.
Penta and, Swerve and, Jake Atlas, all these dudes that are now doing, TV shows and big things. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
The talent pool that was there.
It's really awesome to see how everyone's progressed. And I'm excited to see what they do when they come back and see, the new stars that they start to cultivate.
Yeah. How much longer do you have on your Ring of Honor contract? And if once it's up, do you think you're going to resign, or is there any possibility of something else, for you?
So my contract is up at the end of the year, December 31st. And I love Ring of Honor. I love being there. I love the talent that they have there, and their relationship with New Japan is very appealing to me. New Japan has always been one of my big goals in wrestling. I think that is, bar none, one of the best products in professional wrestling, and they have been for years.
Yeah.
But you never know. I would be open to discussing with really anybody, but I'm really happy with where I'm at right now.
That's great, man. As long as you're happy, that's honestly all that matters. People, pro wrestling fans have a hard time accepting that. Like, why don't you sign with AEW? It's like, he's happy. What's the problem? Like that whole thing with Marty. I know that you're still in that faction with Marty, right? The villain.
No.
Okay.
No. So I have like my own thing going now.
Oh, okay. But you were there. You were part of that for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he got a bunch of shit when AEW happened because he didn't go with him. It's like, it's fine. Look at what he did.
Yeah. I mean, your fans are always going to kind of fantasy book you into where that they see you being, but they don't really see the big picture. Like maybe this company was willing to pay you more and expect less out of you. It's like the overall expectancy from Ring of Honor has been insane, especially with as a new father. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. It's like they're the craziest it gets is we usually have like 45 to 50 shows a year, and it's like 1 or 2 weekends a month away from my kids, where, you know, WWE is like, that's a huge commitment.
Yeah, it's most of the year, right?
Yeah, most of the year you're on the road all the time. That's a lot of time away from your family. So it's like, you know, my family comes first, and that's always going to be the case. And, you know, I kind of got that from my dad. My dad was always, he did lighting for movies, TV, and he always got offered to go to different countries or different states to go film different movies. And he always stayed at home because he wanted to, you know, have dinner with his kids and, you know, be a family man. And that's always been an endearing thing that I've always seen with him. And something that I think is probably the most important. And I think that's something a lot of guys lose, is they're not thinking about the big picture. They're thinking about, you know, what's happening now and how they can get it now. It's like, well, if you can go somewhere else and you can be a great family man and make the same money, then like, that's just as important.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, congratulations on the newborn.
Oh, thank you.
But have you noticed since having the kids, like, have you noticed that like a change in yourself? Because you're kind of, your style of pro wrestling is a little wild. I mean, I have a very clear memory of you flying directly into me at a bar wrestling show. Like, you just flipped, crushed me and like three of my friends into the crowd. And I'm like, that's a big dude to just be flying in the air and landing on top of me right now. But have you felt like a desire to like pull back a little, like maybe take less risks because of, you know, you want to be there in the long run for the kids?
No, absolutely not. You know, it's hard because it's like, while that stuff is in the back of my mind, and obviously like taking some of the more dangerous risks, probably I've cut back a little bit on, but, you know, my idea of professional wrestling and my vision and my art form of it is to give all of myself every time. And I feel like I'm cheating my fans, or I'm cheating the art of professional wrestling if I don't, you know, give everything that I have to it.
Right. Yeah, you can tell when someone is not faking, but just kind of pulling back,
Going through the motion.
going through the motions. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear it, man. You know, it is a risky business. Obviously, I'm not saying that things couldn't happen, but it's all, as long as you're working with professionals, I feel like everybody takes care of themselves and each other. So.
Yeah, and you know, with professional companies, they also take care of you. You know, I've had knee injuries and everything else that, you know, they've paid completely for, and, you know, that's all you can ask for. Yeah. It's hard to be a wrestler when you know, you tear your ACL and you got to figure out how to rehab that and also make money.
Right. Yeah. And you know, you got to be grateful that so many like there are professional companies out there now taking care of people, because, you know, back in the day, you tear your ACL and there's nothing but
like
drugs to take, you know?
Yeah.
You take a bunch of Oxycontins or whatever, painkillers to just numb the pain and get to work, you know? Like,
yeah, a lot of guys, you know, ruin their lives because they just kept pushing too hard.
Yep. Now that I mentioned that, like, I know you're straight edge and everything. Is that also include like medicine, like drugs like that, like painkillers and stuff like that?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, you know, obviously when I had like jaw surgery and like I can't even open my mouth, I'm going to take whatever I can or whatever the doctor recommends. But even then, like, I just never liked how they affect me mentally. Like, they make me very spacey and like kind of knocked out. Like, I would rather deal with a little bit of pain and take like a strong Tylenol than you know, go through an opiate or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know some straight edge folks that don't even fuck with Tylenol. You know,
yeah. I mean,
anything.
Respect to them. I really don't either unless I truly need it. But, you know, I feel like it's negligent to not do it if you truly need it.
Yeah, like what? I mean, what else? I know there's natural remedies and whatnot, but like, what else can you do if like you mess up your neck or your shoulder and you don't take anything? Like, what? Like tea? Like what?
I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah, like I don't know what you could. Ice and wrap it, I guess, but like, I don't know. Like I've had a number of injuries myself, and like I hate. Thankfully, I have this weird. My body is made in a way where I don't get addicted to anything. So like when I did take painkillers for my back a while back, when I stopped, I think I had like one day of feeling like crap afterwards, and but I didn't have that like itch that a lot of people talk about where I need more. And life is miserable without it now.
Yeah. Yeah. My only addiction is gambling.
Gambling. All right, talk to me about that. Like I know I think one of the last things I saw with you and Ring of Honor was something in Vegas. So how like what's your game and like what is it that you're addicted to? The feeling of what?
Slot machines. I
Slot
love
machines?
slot machines, and I love the feeling of getting that bonus game. Sometimes it's not even about like getting like a big win. It's just like I just need that bonus game. But yeah, slot machines are that's my vice. I'll play like blackjack or roulette and stuff like that, but slot machines is where my vice is.
I like slot machines, but I like the old school ones. Like I don't like these new digital with the screen.
Oh, I love it.
I feel like
I
I'm
love them.
getting like somebody's controlling that. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm sure that they're just like, yeah, let's turn it on, give him a little bit so he sinks more into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like me and my wife, we love to go to Vegas and play slots and stuff like that. And they have those like the ones where like the pot closes and like it'll keep like adding coins to it and make you think that it's gonna close sooner, and then it just never does. And then you're just, well, I put $500 into this, might as well keep going.
Have you ever won like a big jackpot?
Yeah, multiple times actually. A couple of years ago, I won like an $8,000 jackpot, like progressive. Last year on my birthday, I won like a $8,000 jackpot. I've gotten a few hand pays here and there, but those are like the two like really big ones.
Now is that like have you done the math like what you've put in to compared to
Sure,
the
sure, I'm down. If I'm not even, I'm probably down.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I whenever I go to Vegas or anything like that, I end up at the blackjack table, and I try to avoid the machines, and I don't like doing the blackjack machines either because I don't know, I just feel like the robots are controlling it, like I have no say in the matter, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much better luck when I'm playing with a dealer, so I don't know.
That's true too. Yeah, I mean I know that they're smarter than I am. They're the ones doing it every day, but
Yeah, and I like how we ask them like, "What would you do?" And then they're just like, "Hit," and then you lose, and you're like, maybe I shouldn't ask you anymore."
Yeah, I like it though. I like just having the cards in my hand. It's I'm that's the one like old school thing about me. Like I'm not fully able to just give myself to machines like books, for example. Like I still read actual books. I can't do the e-reader thing. I feel weird about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to go back to the music just a little bit before wrapping up. Are there any plans to do like one of those live stream things or like the what bands are doing these days and do like Zoom shows or Twitch shows?
Maybe, like I actually had a discussion with somebody about this the other day. Um, I do feel like when it comes to like aggressive music, like that's really like you have to kind of see it to really, you know, be fully into it. And, just doing a set, like just a regular set, I feel like is just kind of like it doesn't really do much. Uh, which is, why I really respect like Code Orange has really gone above and beyond and like kind of like found this like new niche within their art where they can do all this like crazy digital and animation and like overlay over their live set, and like they really put a lot of production into it. And I almost feel like they set the bar, and like if you're not willing to like go to that level, then like there's no point in doing it really.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I obviously I want to see more performances from people, but I like you said that some bands are doing it at a whole other level, and it just kind of shits on everybody else. Like you have to get to that level. Code Orange is a prime example. They keep doing these incredible productions, but there's other bands I've seen like, well, look at what Every Time I Die did. I love what they did because it
Oh
was
yeah,
yeah,
telethon,
yeah,
incredible.
yeah, just mixing the comedy and having skits in there. Like that's perfect. Like that's what we need.
Yeah, we have a really fun idea for a music video. It's going to be kind of hard to pull off, but I think if we can pull it off, it'll be really really fun, and I think everyone will enjoy it. So I think that's our next project right now is to do this like crazy big production music video.
Nice.
It
Nice.
feel like we're in our minds it's like an action movie but with like a trauma budget, and so it's like a B movie version of whatever we're thinking of.
Okay, I'm into it. I like it. I'm a big Trauma fan, so
So
that's awesome. Um, are you still doing your Twitch channel? I know you were doing that for a while. You were watching old matches and stuff. I mean, are you still doing that?
uh I was doing it a lot while my wife was pregnant. Now that we have like two kids, obviously that's kind of taken a lot of the time, and also wrestling coming back. So I've definitely scaled way back on it. I haven't done it in like a couple of months now. Maybe I'll get back into it. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I enjoyed it while I was doing it, and now I just feel like there's other priorities.
Sure. I mean, some people can make like decent money off of these Twitch things. But if you're not in a situation where it's necessary, like your job is still, Ring of Honor is paying well and everything, then, it's more of a hobby or more of a thing just to do for fun than it is like, I need to do this to stay alive until work comes back,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, shit, man. I'm gonna let you go. It's been almost an hour, so I appreciate you taking some time to sit down with me and talk. Been a
Yeah, man.
fan for a while. We met you a few times at the old PCW auditorium, and when you slammed your entire body into my face,
I'm glad leave that lasting impression.
yeah, physically. But yeah, everybody that's listening and watching, pick up God's Hate. Pick up one of the variants of the records. They're all really awesome looking, man. Like I collect records, and there's some of those patterns I haven't even seen done before. So go to what is it? Closed caskets? Closed
Closed
casket?
casket, closed casket activities is the record label. You can go on godshate.us and find all of our links from there to buy the record or to stream it on whatever platform you need. And yeah, we'll have an exclusive color at the Midnight Hour record store in San Fernando, which will be like the last of the first press. So
Okay.
we're actually doing a pop-up store today, and we're gonna have like exclusive merch and vinyl there today. But there will be some copies at the Midnight Hour in San Fernando.
Midnight Hour. Okay. Yeah, I might try and swing by there. I know I'm going out to some kind of Halloween pop-up thing that's happening tomorrow. My wife told me about, so we're doing that tomorrow. But
Yeah, we'll be there from 5 to 8 tonight, so you should stop by.
sweet, man. I'll try. Yeah. Cool. So everybody watching, listening, follow Brody King. What's your handle again? It's not just Brody King. It's like X Brody King.
At Brody X King, yeah.
At Brody X King. God's Hate is at God's Hate.
Nope. We have social media. We went more like the DIY punk approach to that. So we have our website, godshate.us. You can follow me at Brody X King, and you can kind of find everyone else in the band from there.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks a lot, and I'll see you around for sure.
Thank you, brother.
All right, man. Take care.